So, Isekai. We all know the Isekai genre. Some of us love it and some of us hate it, but we can all agree that the Isekai genre is the most controversial genre in the entire anime community. Sure, a lot of shonen fan bases can be filled with a bunch of crazy people, but without a shadow of a doubt, the Isekai genre has extreme diehard fans and extreme haters with basically no one else in between. Most people sit here and say that most Isekai anime is trash and that it is really not worth your time. However, I want to counter that argument in this video right here and now. I do agree in a sense, most Isekai anime don't go above a 6 out of 10 for me. However, I think the Isekai genre gets its hate for two big reasons. Firstly, being that each and every season is oversaturated with new Isekai anime coming out. Last season alone had like 5 new Isekai anime come out. The second reason is that the Isekai genre is one of the most watched genres of anime out there, behind probably just shonen, with anime like Re:Zero really getting the spotlight recently. So with the popularity of some Isekai and the oversaturation we see in each season, a lot of people have come to notice the obvious flaws with the genre. But in all honesty, I think that there is just as much good Isekai as bad, and I think that people don't realize how much trash there is in other genres as well, just because they aren't as popular to talk about and watch. In this video, I'm going to talk extensively about a few series and show you that not all isekai are bad, and that the genre itself can be quite diverse in how it portrays the concept of going to another world. Hopefully after this video, you'll have a new appreciation for the genre, and maybe you won't just judge a book by its cover and say, oh, this is an isekai, it's probably trash, and instead be like, oh, that sounds kinda interesting, I'll give it a go, and if you still don't like it, then you can drop it. Because as of recently, I have seen a lot of hate for the isekai genre, calling it generic and lame, when as of recently, I think the isekai genre has really found its stride with a lot of really interesting and fun worlds and stories to explore. So with that out of the way, I will start going over some of the series I want to talk about, and they probably aren't series you were expecting, so I do hope that this video sheds a light on how diverse and interesting the isekai genre can be. Okay, so before I get into the meat of the video, I want to talk about the hate and a lot of the things people say when they say they don't like isekai anime. First is that it's generic, and I can see that argument for sure. With the oversaturation of the isekai genre in each season, it can certainly feel like they are all the same generic stories. Besides being generic, a lot of people say that the isekai anime is nothing but power fantasy garbage. There are certainly some that are like that, but there are also quite a few where the main character isn't overpowered, or at least isn't overpowered right away. The last argument I would like to bring up briefly is the argument that the isekai protagonists all end up with a harem. No, that just flat out isn't true. There are plenty of isekai, even a lot of really popular ones, where the main character doesn't have a harem, so that argument to me is very strange. Okay, it's almost time to get into the meat of the video, but firstly I want to mention a series that a lot of people hate on, and some of the hate is justified, but most of it isn't, and that series is SAO. Now, SAO isn't perfect, far from it, but a lot of people sit here saying the series is garbage and they can't watch it, and yet they always manage to keep up with what's currently out. SAO is one of those series that is amazing when you first watch it, and then over time you start to realize the flaws. But despite that, the series is always fun, it's always emotional, and it knows how to get you into the series, and that to me is awesome. Okay, now the real video is starting, and the first real series I want to talk about is Descendants of a Bookworm. Now, some of you may not have heard of this series before, so first, let me give you a basic plot synopsis of the series for you guys. One day, our protagonist Mine wakes up finding herself in another world, and quickly she realizes that things are off. Mine is a sickly girl who can't really run around and play or do other things, but she is extremely smart and uses those smarts to try and make her favorite thing in the world, books. And over time, shenanigans happen and the series just opens up more. That was a very basic plot synopsis of the series, but that should do the trick and give you an idea of what this series is about. But now I want to talk about a lot of things that make this series different from all other isekai anime out there. Most isekai anime have male protagonists that are teenagers and that are stupidly overpowered for absolutely no reason. But in Descendants of a Bookworm, the main character, Mine, is a female and is also like 5 years old or something, and she also isn't OP. As a matter of fact, she's the exact opposite of this. She is very sick and can barely get around without having somebody with her. Those are a few of the differences between Descendants of a Bookworm and other isekai, but there are also many differences that don't just involve the main character, but also involve how the world and story are handled. The world is very different than in most other isekai, as in most other isekai where you travel the world and visit different towns and meet different people. But in Descendants of a Bookworm, they stay in this small town throughout most of the series, only very briefly going out for special events and other things like that. It really gives off the small town vibe where it feels like everyone knows each other, which is really cool. The story is also very different from most other isekai, as it doesn't focus on slaying monsters or the demon lord. It focuses more on inventing cool things that most of us take for granted in every everyday life, but in this world is a very precious commodity, and it is cool to see that. Most isekai anime are also known for having terrible animation, and that is one thing that I can say sadly doesn't change much in this series. However, the animation isn't terrible, it just isn't the greatest of all time. It's just alright, and that's fine. There isn't too much action in this series, so the animation doesn't need to be amazing. So the animation works for what it is. A Sentence of a Bookworm is a very unique isekai anime that doesn't have a conventional story for most isekai, and it doesn't have a conventional protagonist. This series is one that I highly recommend to those who want a different experience from your typical isekai anime, as it does so much differently and it does it in a very awesome way. Okay, the next anime I want to talk about is My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom, or for short, just Villainess. Somehow, this series took the traditional isekai format and threw it on its head. It said, fuck it, I'm gonna do my own thing, and it does. This series, unlike most other isekai out there, is a rom-com series that focuses on our main character, Katarina, trying to find a way where she can avoid hitting all the death flags and being either killed or banished, and she does so by being herself. Now, on the surface, that plot may sound quite boring, but then you realize that her being herself means that she is a dumb, bumbling idiot who loves eating a lot of food and is also willing to do anything to help her friends. All of those traits make for some amazing moments throughout the story and really makes you want to keep watching as the story just gets more and more funny. The story does have its serious moments though, and those moments come through on the other personality trait of Katarina's, where she is willing to do anything for her friends. There are quite a few moments throughout the series where she throws herself into dangerous situations to help her friend despite not really being able to do much. The character dynamics of the anime are also amazing. The other characters all want to protect the kind and innocent Katarina, and she herself wants to do the same, and with that being the case, a lot of hilarious moments throughout the series happen because of this dynamic. The series is also quite forward with how the characters feel towards one another, and it doesn't shy away from openly showing a gay character as well, which I am all for, of course. The animation in this series is pretty good actually, for a series with not a lot of action. This series looks quite good. I will say that it isn't the greatest looking animation out there, but considering this is mostly just a comedy series, the animation can be quite fluid at times and really makes the few action scenes look that much nicer. This series is not only a super unique isekai series, but it is just a unique series in general. The way the characters interact with each other makes for some amazing comedy. The setting of the story is fun and interesting, and there are plenty of serious plot points that get resolved throughout all the comedy. Villainess is definitely a series that I recommend if you think isekai is trash, as this series will definitely change that perception for you. Okay, the final anime I want to talk about is a really recent addition to the isekai genre, as it only came out last season, and that season is The Dungeon of Black Company, or Make You Black Company. Honestly, this series has a lot of unique elements in it that make it a lot different from other isekai anime out there, starting with the premise, which is about our main character getting transported into another world, and he is forced to work for a really terrible mining company with bad conditions and low pay. So over the course of the series, our main character comes up with a whole lot of crazy and wacky plans in the goal of starting his own opposing company, and in doing so, we get to see a lot of hilarious moments that really just make everything come together nicely. There isn't too much fighting that goes on in this anime, and definitely not for the main character, as he is one of the weakest in the story. The character dynamics are amazing. The way all the characters interact with each other is fun, and that is where most of the comedy comes from. Just like with Konosuba, you can really feel the voice actors having a really fun time with this series, as all of the characters bounce off of each other nicely, and it really just enhances the comedy to another level. The anime does have a few serious moments in it, however, and they do make for a nice contrast with the otherwise very comedic manner of the story, and it really gets you to like the characters a whole lot more. One of the things I love about most other isekai anime is the world in which the story takes place. However, most of the time the world is just some fantasy setting, and that can get quite boring after a while. So to see a dark, dingy mix between both sci-fi and fantasy really makes the world feel quite unique, and is really fun to see the characters run through the world and see how everything functions. Compared to the other two series I talked about in this video, the animation quality for the series is a lot better as well, which allows not only the comedy but the action as well to be enhanced and to really make everything nice. It gives you a really good sense of the world these characters live in, and really makes you not want to live there, which is awesome, as that was definitely the vibe the animators were going for. Make You Black Company is honestly one of the most unique isekai anime I have seen in a long time. It has a lot going for it, and it was a really fun experience. It is a series that I highly recommend, as it was really just a blast to watch. So I hope that with this video, I was able to convince some of you guys that not all isekai anime are garbage, and that some of them are actually worth checking out. There are plenty of other isekai anime that I didn't mention here in this video that are also amazing, and I know you will have a good time watching. Of course, there are those that are bad, but like with every genre, there are still plenty of good shows out there to check out and enjoy. It sucks sometimes when a genre gets popular, because then it just brings a lot of hate for things that certain series in said genre do, and it doesn't help with the fact that there are at least 5 shows in every season that are isekai. But regardless, I do recommend that everybody go out and pick a few series series of this genre, whether it be one that I recommended in this video or some other series you may find people talking about, and just give it a go, because you might find that you really like the series and the genre as a whole.